audio now. Looks like we might. Yep, there's the audio. That's what I'm looking for. Yep. Okay. Well, that's good news. That's good news. Yeah, we'll just mute that down for right now. Refresh Miro because I did have a request go through for that. And for some reason I'm not seeing the requested item I was looking for there. So I'm going to come back and see what I can do here. It's kind of a busy morning, kind of moving in a lot of weird directions. It's the day after it's a day after the new day in America, and trying to get back on our horse. Ran out of hard drive space yesterday. I was working on different things, and when you run out of hard drive space, that means you're probably editing a lot of video, and it means that you're not going to get anything done until you fix that. So yesterday was definitely a weird, slow. Well, it wasn't a slow day. I was trying to do a lot, but it was not a very productive day. So we're going to jump in here. It looks like CouchPod has fired for us. It has. So we are live. Almost up on that 50,000 views mark, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool to have you folks along. So we're going to go ahead and push this out of the station. We've got a few projects to look at this morning, but I definitely wanted to take a minute to make sure that everything was all in order, because, well, frankly, if I don't have audio, there's no reason to record this thing. All right. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatics. Time for the feedback loop. We've got Ricardo's back, Bren's back, Abraham's thrown something in for review, and Ruby's back. So we've got a quad here today that has submitted work. And hey, listen, the beginning of the week with National Day of Service, MLK Day, very slow, but everything is like ramped up seriously. Basically since yesterday. So super excited to jump in, and let's see what we've got to review today. Okay, you know what? We're just going to start right here with Abraham. So Abraham, you've got this managed device view, and the one thing I'll say here is your main question was related to the organization of this page. And I think you're right. There's nothing here that's raising up to the level of really drawing our attention to what we should be focused on. If this is managed devices, there's something about this centralized area that I really want to focus on. And I'm also wondering about the space that Actions is currently taking up. I don't know necessarily what else is going to be here aside from add new device. You probably know the user stories that might populate this right rail. I don't, though. So initially, without knowing more about like what could eventually go over there, I begin to wonder, like, okay, so as it stands right now, if I have more than 2 devices, I've got to start stacking down. Wouldn't that be nice to be able to have a third and maybe get up to 6 devices? I'm not sure how many devices one of your patients might have. So that would be one thing that I would do, because right now, I've got Jane and I've got her demographics, and part of this, also makes me wonder if, like, are these things that I should be able to, like, should Actions somehow be related to Jane, because I see this feels like I can expand it out. Is there a collapsed version of this? Do I always have to have this information? I can totally see why I would want to have her status as active, the services that she's getting, her marital status, although that feels a bit that feels a bit demographic for me. Um, and then I could see having this information drop down as like more detail, and then I could have add actions over here, or I could have add new device, manage devices, add new device. Um, but if you've got more going in over here, I get it. As far as like orientation, like I could see, one question I have is, could more than one device be active at a given time? Is there a color that could be added to these, even if it was like a little dot ahead, or to the maybe an indicator dot to the upper right, that says this is active or this is inactive or there's a problem. Even if it was just an icon, so like an icon, it could be like a circle with a check mark and it's green. Well, that gives me a little more indication of what of what is active, and where I should be focusing my attention. Also, it would help me understand if I'm trying to pull a measurement from something and I see an indicator saying, circle with a slash in it, or it's an exclamation point. That could tell me that, there's something wrong with that device. Right now, I don't get that sense of, I don't get the sense that there's really any sort of indicator on the screen. Although I don't know if you have access to that information either. So that would be something that I would want to know from the user stories. But I definitely want to, this is the device's view. I definitely want to put some sort of focus on these elements. And part of that just means, okay, spatially, I need to collapse down some other things. And if I can't collapse down other things, then I want to look at, is there anything I can do to add status to this to tell me at a glance whether something is active or not. And that would be very helpful too, because yesterday we were having a discussion about, I want to switch devices, or I want to turn one on or off. So it seems like you were having some sort of discussion of activity. Can I get it to show up in this view? Ricardo. So Ricardo, you are working along here on the tracking white paper exercise. The one thing I'll say here, and I really do appreciate you've tweaked this a bit to make it to make the hierarchy work. There's a couple things. Asterisk indicates required fields. If you remember back to the form exercise, we said that if it was a required field, we don't want to indicate everything that's required. If it's all required, then just it's all required. There you go. There's no need to indicate. What you want to indicate is like what's optional, and nothing here is optional. So this line and these asterisks can come off, because if it's all required, then it's just fill out the form. Next, in terms of I like the lack of the outline. I think this reads a lot better. What doesn't read though is the color here. This teal, and if we look over at the actual usage, the teal that's here is a lot. It's on a bold piece of typography. So, like when I look at your label here, and I'm going to disconnect this. I really think this is more actually like that. That's much closer to the actual item. Although, like in this exercise, you're tasked with going through and basically, can I create styles based on what I'm seeing? Sometimes that doesn't mean those styles are accessible. And if we check the contrast checker, you can see it's close, right? So on large text, I'm looking for at least a 3-to-1. This is 2.52 to 1, but that means that this teal probably isn't quite there, and it's definitely not there when we look at normal text, which is where we're at right here. When we come down here, we've got a whole new set of problems, because when we run that plugin Stark, and again we've seen this before, there's even less contrast, and it's because this is on a white background. This is on a shade of that teal, and that's why there's even less contrast. So the contrast here is really poor. If we adjust this, I don't even necessarily think you can make it dark enough in terms of teal, because this would be 100% possible difference. So the teal itself has to get darker for that to separate. All right. So right now this is failing accessibility. So you wanna fix that as well, and that's the struggle here. It's not only, when we're going through these exercises, it's not only that we are trying to make something that looks good, but it also needs to be accessible. And that's all. It's sometimes difficult to hold all that in our heads as we're going through, but it is possible. I mean, WhiteHouse.gov yesterday went live, and it was accessible from like the first minute it was up. So after years of not being accessible, I wonder why. Anyway, so let's get that tweaked. But this, I mean, again, I think you've made improvements. It's much better than it was yesterday. Let's come over here and look at. By the way, remove background. We're going to be talking about that in the new video that I was attempting to drop yesterday, where I'm showing you how to make custom masks with the pen tool, and we also look at remove background. Remove background's okay. It's not bad, but it's got limitations. All right, so we were looking at Miro, and this was related to free will. What I've discovered about free will from Ruby's note is that free will's Miro board is not ready yet. So what I think is interesting here is the amount of research that Ruby did for this take-home exercise. So the first 4 pages of her 13-page design assignment was related to questions that she wants to ask and answers that she's coming up with for the questions. I think that much of this, like you've got this NIH, National Institute of Health, you went and you found answers based on items that are out there, and we know that because you included so much of that here in the documentation here that is attached below. The source here is literally the NIH. I think that you're showing the desire to educate yourself about the topic beyond just the assumptions that you might make. And I think that's very important. This is something that I would share with them. I would share that, like, what are the sources of the information that led to, you're being asked to hypothesize on what the answers to these questions might be. So you want to like give them a sense of what is your confidence rating on those answers, and where is that confidence stemming from, or where is that lack of confidence stemming from? Lack of confidence would stem from, hey, I don't know this space very well, so I'm kind of guessing. But confidence is built when you do research. That's the primary reason we do research. We want to be confident in the decisions that we're making. Yes, research helps you get closer to the user, but in getting closer to the user, you become more confident in the things that you're prescribing. So here, I think the fact that you pulled in this NIH information is important. When you get to the high-level takeaways, I think these are it. This is like the summary information that you're going to give back to them to say, this is what I got out of all this. But when I look at the flow, I think it's important to show what it's like if our product isn't part of this ecosystem. Like, hospital checks for AHCD. If no AHCD, hospital goes and looks for family members. And then if no family, then like, what does that decision tree look like? Also, a family member may say, I'm not comfortable making that decision, and you still end up having to go find a court-appointed guardian. And And all the while this is all going on, something could happen to the patient. And if in the interim something happens to the patient, the hospital has to do certain measures. And as you noted, they have to maintain hospice care. They may have to, if somebody's near end of life, they may have to keep them alive through artificial means, which may be something the person doesn't want. So this flow chart is really important. But then there is the flow chart that shows how the product solves some of these problems. And that's the question that I don't know right away. I don't know what problems it solves, aside from, does it make it easier for the hospital, for somebody to A, sign up, B, for the hospital to check, and C, for family members to also be have visibility into it, because so much of this is typically in like a form, and that somebody has signed off on it, but the rest of the family can't see. And is that what was really decided? And like, there's all this infighting that can really happen over these things. Sometimes the worst thing that happens is actually to the family members who are fighting over this. So so I would show a flow that shows the current state, and you now, because of your research, you know the current state. And then I would show a flow that shows how this product changes that. Okay. And then finally, Bren has submitted her stakeholder interview questions, and I'm gonna answer these offline. I'm not gonna make you folks sit here and watch me answer a bunch of questions, but you're asking, you're poking at the right spaces. Key differentiation. What keeps your customers returning? You always want to ask questions of the subject matter experts. Okay. Sometimes that's people in your organization. Other times that's definitely the client. Your client's got a lot of the answers. They may not necessarily know it, and it's up to you to translate that. Can you extract that knowledge from them so you can work with it? How will you get this? This is a very important question. What's your plans for distributing the meals? Do I need to build in something to facilitate network carrier routing, or are you going to outsource that, and that's something we don't have to worry about? That's a very big piece of the puzzle here. And asking that question now would it allows you to tailor what your suggested build will be. And if without that question, you're just like, okay, so I have to do this, and we have to do that, and all right, so that's going to be weeks and or months additional just to build out that one little component. But it's the last mile. It's like, how do I get it from store to person? So proportion of sales, age groups. Here I can see your in-store research beginning to play a role. You're beginning to look at, hey, are these solo shoppers? Are these groups? Are these men? Are these women? And then you're looking for this is a good question. These are good questions under the project itself. These are good questions to determine how serious are these people about this project. Are they going to cut bait at the first sign of trouble, or are they really here for the long haul? And what's the most important thing for us to get right? What's the purpose of the project in your own words? Here you're looking for somebody to go, oh, this is a stupid thing we've been trying to do for 6 years, and I'm just hopeful it gets across the finish line so we don't have to talk about it anymore. That answer is very bad. You don't want to be near that project. But if it's a situation where it's like, this has been on our roadmap for a while, but we really feel like certain market conditions have aligned and now's the time to do it, it means that they've wanted to do this for a while, but they're specifically choosing now because something has changed and has put an emphasis on this. That's a fine answer. Okay. Timeline. Timeline's really important because obviously if they want this thing next month and you're speccing it out and it's like, man, this thing's going to take 6 months to build, you need to be upfront with them to to set the expectations, and you can't do that without knowing the timeline. Like if you came out and you said, oh yeah, we can do it in 6 months, it's like, wow, we were thinking it was going to take 2 years. You're like, oh wait, are we talking about the same project? Can you describe any differing interests or opinions that other team members may have? And that was just kind of what I was talking about. Like marketing's on board with this, but our operations staff thinks it's a waste of time. Like you're looking for those little things. Maybe you can go talk to operations and get a better understanding of why. Maybe there's a red flag there to look for. Anyway, so I think these questions are pretty good. I'm going to give you some feedback on these here offline, and that's going to wrap it up. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. Thanks to Bren and Ruby and Ricardo and Abraham for submitting work today. I'm going to jump off of here because we have a busy day of meetings. But if you've enjoyed this, please click that subscribe button. And otherwise, if you're looking for design mentorship, if you're watching this on the live stream and you're just wondering what this is all about, know that we do design mentorship here at New Pragmatic. And if you're wondering if it works, here's a few words from my friends. All right, see you.